trying to get some people interested in your grant thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, it sounded interesting.
I mentioned it again tomorrow at the executive.
No, it's a good idea.
Okay, so folks that are interested in history.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October 31st All Hallows Eve meeting of the Housing, Land Use, Environment, and Transportation, as we like to call it, Hewlett meeting. And Supervisor Committee, we're going to call the meeting to order, and then you've got a comment, and then we'll go to public comment.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Duck? Thank you. Donald Duck, excuse me. Thank you. Peggy, I think what we'll do is, if it's all right with you, each person introduce their name, their title, so those in the audience understand who's here, and you can take that as roll call. Does that work for you? Thank you. Mr. Rocha.
Don Rocha, Director for Parks and Recreation.
Joe Zintek, Director, Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency.
Good afternoon. Harry Freitas, Roads and Airports Department.
To the left of Harry is Jacqueline Anshana, who's our Planning and Development Director, and she's walking up.
Thank you. Mike Wasserman, District 1 Supervisor.
Joe Simidian, Vice Chair of the Committee, District 5. And I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, I walked out of the House today and realized I had just thrown on a sweater and thought, gee, I'm going to be dressed a little informally for committee hearing today. And then I arrived and felt like I was
Right where you belong.
positively grown up in my attire. So it's good to see you all, and thank you for making me feel comfortable in my casual suburban attire today. Thank you.
Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive, dressed as a bureaucrat today.
Steve Mitra, Assistant County Counsel, and I approve all the costumes for form and legality.
Thank you. Wonderful to have that consensus. Now we'll move on to item number 2, which is public comment, your opportunity to speak about anything not on today's agenda. Trina, come on forward, and Scott, you're batting second. Or as an NFL referee, you got to use a football terminology instead. Hi, Trina.
Hi, happy Halloween to
Happy
everybody.
Halloween.
And the reason I came today was because I wanted to publicly recognize your code enforcement department specifically. They have been doing an outstanding job in South County, so much so that you guys have probably got complaints that people are being fined, or that there's lots of people coming together to address the code enforcement issues. South County specifically has been long ignored. I know myself, as well as other residents, who have years of complaints for one location. And the fact that code enforcement is collectively working with environmental health and Sheriff's Department and all of those collectively is making a huge difference. And I just want to encourage you to continue to support the code enforcement department, give them even more people and more money to do their job. Your mobile citizen app is fabulous for roads. Really encourage you to maybe look at that. Supervisor Yeager put out that urban blight policy last year or the year before. You may want to look at a rural blight policy and work with the the farmers or the Farm Bureau to see what options are out there that still keeps it that rural integrity, but at the same time allow property owners who have been living there for a long time not to have to be so subjected to demise due to absentee property owners who have truly degraded a lot of areas within South County. So again, I just really want to encourage you to continue to support the Code Enforcement Department in any way possible. I have personally seen that there seems to be some misunderstanding as to what is happening down there, but we need them, and we need them to continue to do what they've been doing collectively with the other departments. So again, happy Halloween, and thank you.
Thank you for coming up here to say that. Appreciate it. Head linesman, field judge.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't watch volleyball that much, Mike. I'm not, it's a costume. I don't follow sports that much. Maybe I work at Foot Locker.
There you go.
You never know. Okay, ready when you are, Donald Duck. I love the costume right there. Hopefully we'll be panning over there, and that'll be great for the video I'm going to chop up later. I just really need. It was interesting. I appreciate the humor. I really do. And interesting what you had to say, Steve, signing off on the costumes. But not to kind of shift it, this right here, Steve, got me arrested out in front of the Family Justice Center. So my costume is technically not legal. Now remember, this is a little plastic kid's toy. And of course, Joe knows a lot about this because he chimed in about that order. Joe, they're still stopping people out in front of our courts for an unconstitutional order. The order has been amended. It was refiled with our courts. And what's happening now is they're still serving that thing out. They're still scooping it. They're still stopping families from protesting, moms from protesting, and it's still unconstitutional, and it's still the same type of thing that goes on over and over again in our county. I am also now being prosecuted again by the San Jose Police Department for operating a sound amplified device on a sidewalk over there. Okay, I'm not like anti-fi. I'm not out there with a bat chasing after people and stuff like that. I'm talking through a megaphone, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of research about what I'm talking about through that megaphone. And I do use some colorful language here and there. And I do rag on the police chief, and he gets very, very upset about what I have to say. I think Chief Garcia is not a good one. He tried to pull me in and tried to be my big best friend. And basically, they stabbed me right in the back. I went to a lot of meetings there. I set up a complaint system with them. I thought I was really doing the right thing to protect the poor. But they're just making money off of these people. And so is our county. Because we're excessively billing the mentally ill and homeless, and we're not helping these people at all. It's not helping. None of it's working. And I'm just wondering sooner or later, if our civil rights go down the toilet like this, this is just no longer America. And Joe, it was great that time that you chimed in and you started addressing that order right there, but is that all we get? Is that all we get out of your leadership, is just looking over an order and just kicking the legal can to James Williams? James Williams is not going to do a goddamn thing about my civil rights. He's not going to provide me quality legal counsel. He's going to do nothing, Joe. So maybe at one time, and it's not about me, it's about the First Amendment. I would love to see you on the news one day, standing out there and standing up for the community and saying what we're doing out there isn't wrong. They are continually stopping everybody that's doing what I'm doing. I'm like the lone wolf. I'm the lone survivor right now. You guys know that too. There's no one left. They have all been harassed, stalked. They show up at their home. Everything like that happened to me. The county did it, the city did it, everyone did it. Thank you. Happy Halloween.
Thank you, Scott. That concludes our public comment portion of today's agenda. Move on to item 3, which is to approve the consent calendar. On the agenda before you had items 8 through 13. Supervisor, I would suggest that we also add item number 5, if you don't have any objection.
No objection. Happy to make the motion to approve the consent calendar with the addition of item number 5, sir.
Thank you. And for all those in the audience today, we're looking to approve items 8 through 13 and item number 5 in one motion. I have speaker cards for other items, but for none of those. So my assumption is there's no one here that wishes to speak. I know we're moving quickly. I just want to give you a second shot. No one here that wishes to speak on items 8 through 13. Seeing none, we'll close that portion. I'll look for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second that. And our clerk, it's passing unanimously. Thank you. Is that a card you're picking up? What number is that, sir? You might want to turn around if it's one of these numbers. Nope, you're good. Thank you. All right, so we just approved items 8 through 13 and item number 5. We're now moving to item number 4, which is receive report from Parks and Recs relating to the Coyote Canyon Natural Resource Management Plan and the Interim Access Plan, after which it will be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors, if that is the motion. Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, and good afternoon again. The department is very pleased to bring the Coyote Canyon Natural Resource Management Plan and Interim Access Plan to the committee today. Just as a reminder to the committee, this 2,700-acre piece of property is a key acquisition for us that links Coyote Lake Harvey Bear Ranch with Anderson Lake, as well as linking 128,000 acres of open space through this acquisition. So it's a real key acquisition for us. It also meets a major goal for the organization. We're looking to open up our properties after acquisition within 5 years. And with this property being purchased in April of 2016, we're working hard to hit that goal. And it's very important with this interim plan coming forward to the committee today that we're able to achieve that ambitious goal of ours. So with that, we have staff here today. I'll introduce our acting principal planner, Jeremy Farr, and he can introduce his team to have a brief presentation.
Thank you, Don. So as Don said, I am actually in costume as the acting principal planner, but I did work on this project with Sharice Orange, our associate planner, as the natural resources planner. We also have Mike Bellinger from Bellinger, Foster, and Steinmetz Landscape Architects, who was hired as the lead consultant to help us prepare the public access portion of the plan, as well as oversee the natural resources management portion of the plan. And we also have Steve Rottenborn from H.D. Harvey and Associates, who served as our expert biologist for our surveys of the property. Today we'll give a short presentation on the planning process for evaluating and making recommendations for the interim public access to the property, as well as management of the natural resources and review of any potential environmental impacts. We welcome any questions during the presentation or after, and I'll let Sharice lead it off.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharice Orange.
Your microphone's not on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharice Orange, an associate planner with the County of Santa Clara Parks and Recreation Department. The property was acquired by the department in 2016 with the intent of linking Coyote Lake, Harvey Bear Ranch, and Anderson Lake County Parks together via trail and providing access onto the property within 2 to 3 years following acquisition. To open the property to the public, the department needed to understand the existing conditions, opportunities, and constraints of the property, identify strategies and practices for maintaining and enhancing natural resources, and develop recommendations for limited public access and how to manage natural resources on the property. Based on environmental surveys and evaluations performed by technical experts and with stakeholder and community input, the department developed an interim access plan, natural resources plan, and mitigated negative declaration for compliance to CEQA. The interim access provides the conversion of existing ranch roads to recreational trails, construction of new trails, and long-term maintenance of a 10.4-mile trail network within a limited portion of the property. The NRM plan outlines the land management strategies the department would employ, such as habitat survey and monitoring, invasive plant control, and grazing and rangeland management to protect and enhance the natural resources of the property. For compliance, the department evaluated the project based on CEQA and analyzed impacts from the NRM plan on a programmatic level and the IA plan on a project level. The project's environmental compliance will be discussed later in the presentation. During the evaluation of the property, it was determined that recent flooding, particularly in winter of 2017, had affected reliable access for patrols on the east side and far west side of the property. To meet the department's goals of providing access within 2 to 3 years following acquisition, recommended public access is on the west side in what we also call the core of the property. Based on findings from the NRM plan and with input from Department Operations Maintenance and NRM staff, 3 alignments were proposed for interim access. These 3 alignments were then taken to the public during a public input meeting, and the community selected Trail Alignment 2 as a favorable alignment. With further refinement, the recommended alignment, as shown, was created. The recommended alignment provides loop trail connections for users and a north to south patrol route for maintenance operations. On these trails, users will experience views of the city of Morgan Hill and the Santa Cruz Mountains and views of riparian oak woodland. As shown in this map, Coyote Canyon is connected to Coyote Lake Harvey Bear Ranch County Park through trail junctions at the existing Ed Wilson Trail and and Harvey Bear Connector Trail. The system itself is comprised of 5 multi-use trails and 1 hiking and dogs on leash only trail. Multi-use trails accommodate users such as hikers, mountain bikers, and equestrians, and dogs on leash. They also provide access for maintenance and operations purposes. On the map, we have the Woodland Valley Trail, which is highlighted in the map as the main access trails to the property, the Woodland Valley Spur Trail, the Ojo de Agua Trail, the Ed Wilson Trail, which is existing and will remain hiking only, the Coyote Ridge Trail, which is proposed to be designated as Bay Area Ridge Trail in accordance with the Countywide Trails Master Plan, and the Harvey Bear Connector Trail. The Harvey Bear Trail is actually an existing trail. We added connector to the name so we can describe its connections to existing trails within the system. All new names were endorsed by the Parks and Recreation Commission Park Naming Subcommittee earlier this year. The trails are available from all the staging areas that exist within Coyote Lake Harvey Bear Ranch County Park, and the closest, which is shown on the map, is Coyote Dam staging area, which is approximately a half a mile away from the proposed trails. Not highlighted in the map, there are 5 access points available for emergency vehicle access. 3 connect to service roads, which are closed to the public, and 2 begin south of the property at 2 existing staging areas.
So Sharice just covered our interim access portion of the plan. For the natural resources portion, we used H.D. Harvey to conduct focus surveys in the trail corridor, which helped establish sensitive species or other unstable areas, other conditions that may have warranted realignment of the trail. So our interim access is based on actual on-the-ground surveys. Those surveys were also coupled with doing data review and background document review to evaluate the property as a whole. So our natural resource management plan covers the entire property, not just the focus core where we are providing interim access. This was to establish baseline conditions from which we could both formalize what's on the ground and then provide some recommendations on how we can improve habitat, how we can protect what's out there, and then where we have availability of staff and funding where we can enhance habitat. The third element is a grazing plan. It complies with our park rangeland management policy, where properties where we have grazing should have a grazing management plan of some sort. So an entire chapter of the natural resource management plan is devoted to grazing. So for the natural resource management plan, we had several different goals that were the focus for protection and enhancement of the natural resources that were identified and evaluated by H.D. Harvey. On the screen, as you can see, the natural resource management plan goals. First was to monitor and protect occurrences of sensitive plants in communities. Through our surveys, we have an idea of where these sensitive species are and how we can monitor them going forward, and analyze for any impacts due to increases in grazing or increases in public access. Another goal is to improve riparian habitat and water quality through selective cattle exclusion areas. When we purchased the property, we inherited all of the grazing infrastructure that supported the cattle operation, and so we've been operating the property as we inherited it. So there are some improvements that need to be made. We also plan on monitoring and protecting oak woodlands, monitoring and protecting nesting birds, golden eagles, and wintering burrowing owls that were found during our surveys, managing invasive plants and wild pigs, managing invasive plants primarily through cattle grazing, and as I said before, enhancing habitat and species as staffing and funding allows. Grazing is a significant management tool for the department in many of its parklands. Grazing on this property has historically occurred most likely since the Mexican land grants were established, but definitely since the 1950s, that we can definitely confirm. As I said before, we inherited all of the cattle grazing infrastructure, including fencing, troughs, corrals, the water infrastructure, as well as we actually inherited the cattle grazing operation, or the licensee as well. That license is part of an RFP out right now for multiple parklands, and so that is currently being evaluated through a request through the RFP process. Yeah, and the grazing plan, the goals of the grazing plan support the natural resource management plan. Although they are identified separately, they always support the natural resource management plan goals. Some of the things we specifically called out based on our interaction with the public was focusing on minimizing fire hazards to adjacent property owners through focused and intensive grazing along property boundaries, and also working with them in a collaborative way to make sure that all concerns are addressed.
An initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared by the department. Mitigations were related to cultural resources, biological resources, water quality, and hydrology, and all were identified in the CEQA document. The department had initially circulated the CEQA document in early spring of this year. The document was circulated to the state clearinghouse, local agencies, interested organizations, and individuals who may wish to review and provide comments on the project description, the evaluation of potential environmental impacts, the proposed mitigation measures, or any other aspect of the document. During the first public comment period, we received comment from the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, which identified additional potential permitting requirements for portions of trails that may occur in waters of the United States, which fall under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, also known as USACE. The department opted to recirculate a draft revised initial study and mitigated negative declaration for the project in late summer to ensure that USACE had a full opportunity to comment on aspects of the project that may implicate waters within their jurisdiction. In all, comments were received from members of the public, the San Francisco Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, the Sierra Club Loma Prieta Chapter, the Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society, and the Bay Area Ridge Trail. Comments were related to wildfire, hydrology, biological resources, trail construction, and grazing on the property. So next steps. Depending on the outcomes of today's meeting, the department plans to submit the plan and the CEQA documentation for approval at the December Board of Supervisors meeting. Following that, we would compile and publish the final documents for the public, and then we would begin implementation of the project. So securing permits and beginning trail construction and conversion. And this concludes our presentation of the Coyote Canyon Natural Resources Management Plan and Interim Access Plan.
Thank you, Jeremy and Sharice, and Mike and Steve, thank you both for being here as well, being available. Supervisor, I've got some comments on this issue, but before doing so, I wanted to hear from our speakers, if that's all right with you.
I think that makes sense. I'm guessing some of the comments I might offer will probably be raised by the speakers, so.
You got it. Shawnee, come on forward. Ross, and then Bill. You'll each have up to 2 minutes. Please just line up behind each other.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Supervisors. Shani Kleinhaus with Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. We submitted a letter together with the Sierra Club, which you're being handed now, which expressed several concerns. grazing as it impacts wetlands and creek corridors and seeps and other little water sources. There's pictures that one of our volunteers took, and she may talk about it later. We also asked for wildlife-friendly fencing. This is an issue that came about, and the supervisors approved wildlife-friendly fencing when there was still supposed to be a community built up there. We're really glad it's not a community now, and instead it's a park, but we think that the same criteria that the supervisors applied to a developer should apply to the county. And I wanted to comment on one of the things that was said here, which is that enhanced habitat is staffing and budget approves. If we're going to open areas to the public has an impact just by visiting, and we should consider enhancing habitat as a requirement and as something that is not as available or as budget and staffing approved. It has to be part of it. It is in the strategic plan because so many people came to public meetings and spoke about how much they value nature, not only because they have access to it, but also because they really care that animals and plants have a place in our landscape. If you think about how many people give money to conserve elephants in Africa, never having to be in there, they care about the animals, and I think that's true for our crowds as well and our people. So yes, provide access, but not less important it is to enhance habitat, not just as stuffing allows.
Thank you. Is it Earcamp?
Hi, I'm Ross Heitkamp,
Heitkamp, thank you.
and I'm here partly on behalf of the Bay Area Ridge Trail. I'll admit I haven't read the entire report, but wow, it seems really thorough. I'm amazed at all the areas it covers. My main concern then is with the public access, and option 2 looks like a really great plan. As a hiker as well, I would love that they've found loops rather than out and backs. I'm excited to see significant extension to the Bay Area Ridge Trail as a part of this, and look forward to future developments trying to get that connected up through. I think the plan's up into Henry Coe eventually. My one area of concern, I hope you can work on management of the area with the grazing to minimize cattle near the trails during wet months and near the creeks. I think it's mostly just in those wet months when real damage is done to the trails that makes it unpleasant to ride a bike on or hike on. But the rest of the time, I think grazing is a great compatible use with some of those open fields. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Rankin, followed by Mira Von Schack.
Hi, I'm Bill Rankin. I'm president of Save Our Trails, a Santa Clara County Trails advocacy group. I'm also on the South Bay Ridge Trail Trail Advocacy Group. I'm in strong support of the Coyote Canyon Natural Resource Management Plan and the Interim Access Plan, and for the new trails proposed on the Coyote Canyon property. This will add 3+ miles, creating a loop, a fully multi-use stretch of the Ridge Trail in southern Santa Clara County. And I just wanted to say thank you for your support of this. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello. My name is Mira Von Schack. I live here in San Jose, and I'm a citizen scientist. I'd like to say that I'm really excited about this new preserve opening, but I'm concerned about the grazing program in the preserve. As a person who's hiking often and doing different citizen science programs in these parks around San Jose, I could say that some of these county parks are being overgrazed, especially a place called Coyote Lake, which is right next to the new preserve. I think there's a big risk here for wildlife and both for plants and animals. I saw that the program is looking at sensitive species, but looking only at the sensitive species is not enough. It's the common species that are actually really important because they support most of the diversity that we see. It's really important to reconsider the grazing program and make sure that they don't make the same mistakes as they've done so far. Also, I'd support wildlife-friendly fences. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the speakers we have on this item, so we'll close the public speaking portion of that. And Supervisor Simitian, before your questions, I'd like to ask Mr. Rocha, which of your staff members would be best suited to address the grazing questions raised?
So I think Jeremy Farr with our consultant from H.T. Harvey would be the best to answer those.
Thank you. You've heard a few concerns raised, and I just wondered if you could publicly express what the county's plans are as far as monitoring, managing whatever grazing organization we end up with via the RFP.
Yeah, so our current grazing operator, the current grazer was the baseline for the grazing management plan. I'll ask Steve maybe to talk about what he's seen out on the site, but in the report it says that, based on our grazing, that it actually provides really suitable habitat for a diverse wildlife and plants as well as sensitive species, and that the grazing operation out there has probably contributed to several plants that are not common in this area due to the grazing. And we admit that, we inherited all of the grazing and the grazing infrastructure. And so there are areas for us to make improvements, such as in riparian areas, fencing off some places. We inherited a water system that actually piped water from a different part of the property. And so we had artificial water sources. So we have ponds that were constructed that actually aren't reliably fed. And so, we're trying to get a handle on how we manage that property best. And H.T. Harvey provided a certified rangeland manager to come out and evaluate our program. And so from his recommendations and talking with the grazer, that's where this grazing chapter of the Natural Resource Management Plan came from. But if Steve would talk to the resources out there.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Rottenborn. I'm a wildlife ecologist with H.T. Harvey and Associates Ecological Consultants. And as Jeremy indicated, our certified rangeland manager, Matt Walker, worked heavily on this site, not only with our botany and wildlife staff, but then talking with county parks staff, county parks land management staff, with the existing grazing lessee on the site to get a sense of how grazing has occurred on the site in the past and how it could be improved. And I think it's important to note that grazing has occurred on this site for a long time. It's not something that's being introduced for the first time now. And because of that, we were able to then get on the site and see what the condition of the site is with the existing grazing that's going on. And what we found was that the site is in generally good condition, as indicated in the Natural Resources Management Plan. There were some areas that we thought were undergrazed, some areas that we thought were overgrazed. That's to be expected because it's been managed for cattle ranching in the past. Now with the Natural Resources Management Plan and with the grazing management portion of the plan, it can be managed for sensitive habitats and for common species. One of the speakers talked about common species, and that's important also. One of the things that grazing management does is create some habitat heterogeneity. It doesn't all grow up really tall. It doesn't all get overgrazed, so that you have more habitat diversity for both the sensitive species and the common species. But it's important here that this grazing management plan, again, focus on saying this is how grazing will occur, this is how monitoring of the effects of grazing will occur, and here are the adaptive management steps that can be taken along the way. So we're taking a system that's been grazed, that's already in pretty good shape, that can be improved even more, and we're providing a plan that's consistent with the county's long-term grazing management policies and applying it to this site. So we would expect with this grazing management plan, the natural resources conditions to get even better than they are currently.
Thank you. Supervisor Simitian. I hardly recognize you dressed that way.
I probably should have said I came dressed as a suburbanite. The seasonal wetlands issue that was raised, Do I understand that there's some process or mechanism by which the cattle can be kept away from the seasonal wetlands at times of particular sensitivity?
Yes, we can partially fence or fully fence any seasonal wetlands. A lot of those wetlands are man-made stock ponds, and so what we can plan to do is exclude a portion of it so that cattle have adequate water for a portion of the time, or we can actually create spring boxes and install a trough separate from the seasonal wetland itself.
Is that something that would require direction from our committee or our board based on what's been submitted?
That is actually a recommendation in the Natural Resource Management Plan.
Thank you. If I missed that, I
those.
apologize. You gave us a lot to wade through here. So that's a recommendation. Will it necessarily happen absent specific direction from our committee or our board?
Yeah, so it will happen. I mean, it's all about balancing recreation access with resource protection. That's the mission of the Parks Department. So we do this in our other grazing lands and our other properties where we partially exclude where we can. Other areas are completely fenced off. We balance that with access and protection.
And, I'm anticipating that the chair will probably make a motion given the district issue here, but if the chair was willing to provide that direction specifically as part of a motion so that we could send this along to the board with a favorable recommendation, would that direction cause you any heartburn?
No, again, that's part of our master plan, and so
I
it's
got it.
right in line with what we do.
Got it. And then the reference was made to monitoring, so could you describe in just sort of very simple terms, 2 years from now, how will we know that the concerns that have been expressed haven't been realized?
In terms of monitoring, we have what we call a natural resource program regional coordinator. And so they're tasked with monitoring the natural resources for each of the 3 regions that we split our parks into. And so that person is aware of this plan, has already gone out there and done some grazing enhancements in terms of fixing fencing and removing fencing. But now that we've had these studies, we know where the most likely impacted species would be with public access, and so we'll be monitoring those locations. We don't have a monitoring plan. We don't have a specific recurring time frame for sampling, but we will be monitoring those species and looking for visual impacts as well as spatial impacts of the extent of the species.
And if I can add on to that real quickly, so every year there's an annual meeting with the grazer to set the grazing prescription for that year. So where there are impacts, we address them through the movement of cattle, how we manage the cattle grazing, and then identify projects that may occur with the park unit staff to address fencing and other needs.
That being said, I heard that there is not yet a monitoring plan. If the committee was inclined and the chair was inclined to simply ask for the development of a monitoring plan that was specific over the course of the next couple of years with a report back once a year to this committee, is that something you could manage without any great difficulty?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay. And then can we talk a little bit about the potential for replacing internal fencing with wildlife-friendly fencing? I'm not sure if anybody had a lot of changes in staff, but I remember raising this issue on a housing development back in 2013 in these same chambers, and I was impressed, frankly, with all of the things we can do if we make the decision to address it. I know, there's always a cost. I get it, but what's the possibility there, Mr. Rocha, if I may, through the chair?
Yeah, so we address, whenever we do a fencing project, we address the potential for wildlife-friendly fencing. We do have an obligation to keep the cattle on our property and not on private landscape. If you As I'm sure you're well aware, especially along the boundaries, when the grass in the natural areas starts to brown out, and especially when they're grazed, it's always greener on the other side with landscape properties. So we do have to maintain our boundaries and 5-strand barbed wire to make sure that the cattle stay in our property, as well as, managing the public access as well, and keeping the public on our lands versus on private properties. But we do evaluate whenever we do a project of looking at wildlife fences for the interior fencing and where those boundaries are compatible with open space, large open grassland, or open large rangeland properties, or other open space properties like Henry Coe, or brushlands that the cattle don't necessarily have a heavy impact on. Those are prime areas for just putting in wildlife friendly fencing or no fencing at all, because the cattle inherently stay out of those areas anyway. So we evaluate that on a regular basis.
So for some places, you're making the case that you need is it the 5-strand barbed wire that's for the cattle, yeah?
Correct, along roadways and our neighbors.
That being said, there are other places, I gather from your materials and from your comments, where we could replace existing fencing with wildlife-friendly fencing, yes?
Yes.
And as things now stand, because I'm trying to figure out what it is, we need to do, if anything, to move forward here in a responsible way. As things now stand, what would the assurance be that where it was possible or feasible or practicable, that we were replacing existing fencing with wildlife?
So in the plan itself identifies areas for fencing improvements, and if those are interior and meet the criteria I discussed before, those will be wildlife fences through repair and replacement that have been identified in the plan. We've already started to remove existing fencing that is no longer dilapidated or no longer needed for cattle grazing, which a lot of times with those fences are being in such a bad state and condition, they're actually more detrimental not only to large mammals but to small mammals, and those fences have already been removed by the California Conservation Corps because we've identified them as detrimental. So as we replace and as we repair, we will be putting in wildlife fencing within the criteria that I mentioned before, and that's identified in the plan.
And I know I'm not looking at the county council who's to my left, but the recommended action is to receive the report. When it goes to the full board, will it also be to, quote, receive the report? The reason I'm asking is, there are plans and then there's what happens.
Right.
And sometimes we can't follow up on our plans, fair enough. But if something is of particular concern, I want to make sure that we give direction on that item, not simply rely on the fact that that's the plan, unless we're being asked to approve the plan and direct staff to follow the plan, which is not what I'm seeing here.
Right.
I'm not trying to find problems where they don't exist. I'm just trying to make sure that 6 months or a year from now, I'm not saying, how come you didn't do X, Y, and Z? And you said, well, the plan changed.
Yeah, so when we bring it to the full board, the CEQA findings are adopted by the Board of Supervisors and the plan is approved by the Board of Supervisors.
And will approving the plan mean that your understanding is that you are obliged to follow the items in the plan?
Yes.
County Council, does that sound right to you?
That does. If the board wishes to make a specific motion directed at specific actions at the time it comes to the board, then that's their prerogative.
Sure. And presumably as part of the plan, we'll be talking about, all the various possibilities for habitat-friendly fencing, yes. I'm thinking reflective markers, I'm thinking visibility, I'm thinking the plastic covers that go over portions of the fences where possible, yeah?
Yes.
All right, I do think there's value in calling that out as well, Mr. Chairman, depending on your view on the subject, but
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate the witness, and I do think having the specific reference to protecting the seasonal wetlands and the monitoring with a specific requirement to have both a plan and a report back on a first-year, second-year basis don't need to make this a bureaucratic process that lives in perpetuity, but I think just make sure we get off to a good start. Those would be my suggestions, but I also want to hear if there's anything else or different from the chair whose district we're talking about.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And before I read my prepared great job points that I have here, Just for the record, I want to put in, I am going to make the motion. This is to receive report, but I will make the motion not only to receive the report, but to forward it to the Board of Supervisors. I'm hoping to get a second on that in just a minute. And what I'd like to forward to the board is what you have prepared, what you've presented, but also calling out protecting the seasonal wetlands. You did mention the grazing plan in place, and it was requested by Supervisor Simidian, and I concur regarding the development of the monitoring plan and reporting back annually to the Hewlett Committee, and also to implement wildlife-friendly fencing is encouraged and wherever permissible and appropriate to do so. Supervisor, just a couple of months ago, I went on a multi-hour hike of Santa Teresa Park.
For the record, I did not.
Did not, but we just left early. When we came back, he was there waiting to go, but it didn't happen. Anyway, we went on this multi-hour terrain and encountered many of these things that you're talking about here. Between the five-pronged, the barbed wire, between the wildlife-friendly fencing, the cattle grazing that was going on there. Also, Jeremy, you mentioned we're prohibiting the cattle from getting to the lake or the pond for whatever reasons, where you built boxes that actually contained water for them to drink from. And I and my staff experienced and got to see firsthand all of those. And as we all know, and we often acclaim in public, our Parks Department, I think, is the best there is. And I am very, very, very excited about this particular action that we're taking today, one step closer, moving it forward to the Board of Supervisors. With that said, I want to acknowledge all of our park staffs and our partners that have been involved getting us to this point today. And I want to say I'm excited to see some level of public access before I leave office, which is 3 years and 2 months from now, just saying. The foundation this plan has laid will be built upon for many decades, with the goal of long-term preservation and restoration in mind. This is a huge win for our hillsides, open space, and wildlife, and I thank all the speakers today that touched on those various aspects. It also incorporates more recreational opportunities close to home, and Director Rocha, you mentioned as far as the mission of our County Parks Department is twofold, as far as parks and preservation, and also the enjoyment by the public of those grounds that we acquire and maintain, and Jeremy, to your point, improve. And while the grazing that's been going on may have been decent, reasonable, good, whatever, I have full confidence in your department that it will become even better and more responsible going forward. Managing an additional 2,741 acres is no small task. This not only connects two county parks, but also creates 128,000 acres of contiguous open space in District 1. And I'll close by saying I look forward to seeing the department and the board support these ongoing improvements. And again, as I started this monologue, great work, great job, thank you. And with that, Supervisor, I'll make the motion to forward this to our full board with the recommendation of approval and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items that you brought up that are now part of the public record.
Thank you. I'm happy to second the motion and appreciate your willingness to incorporate those specific directions in the motion.
Got it. Thank you. That passes unanimously. We now move on, I would guess, number 6, because, yeah, 5 was handled in consent, so we now move on to item number 6. And Jack, we're going to turn to you for just a moment. This is regarding the use of recreational vehicles for ag housing.
Thank you. Jacqueline Anshano, Director of Planning and Development. This item came before you on September 19th. At that meeting, we had discussion of several issues that you directed planning staff to come back and address. So today we have Michael Meehan, who is our program manager of our agricultural plan and senior planner, Michael Ballier from Environmental Health, and Rob Eastwood, planning manager with the Department of Planning and Development. And Michael Ballier, you know what? I just haven't memorized your title. So just share with me your title, because I always call you the Director of Environmental Health, but I know that's Joe. I think that's Joe. She's SEPA.
She's SEPA, yes. You have it
okay.
right. Thank you.
I just wanted to get that straight, so thank you. So Michael Ballier with the Director of Environmental Health to speak to the issues. I'll turn it over to Michael Meehan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Michael Meehan. As introduced by Director Onciano, today we ask you to consider an updated approach to the pilot program for temporary agricultural residences, which would provisionally allow for a single RV or similar unit to accompany an on-site agricultural operation in the agricultural areas. On September 19th, September 16th was my birthday, September 19th, the committee directed staff to review several possible modifications and return with an update to the proposed pilot program. Staff's analysis of the possible modifications can be summarized along 6 points. 1, staff agrees with the committee and recommends that the required security deposit be reduced from $5,000 to $2,500. Number 2, staff agrees and recommends establishing a setback requirement for the temporary ag residence, conforming to the residential standard of 30 feet from all property boundaries and 100 feet from a designated scenic road. Number 3, staff agrees and recommends that the limit on participation in the pilot program be expanded from 25 parcels to 50 parcels. Number 4, staff agrees and recommends increasing the length of stay for temporary agricultural residences from a potential maximum of 3 years to 5 years. Number 5, on the subject of occupancy, staff recommends limiting the pilot program to accompany an on-site agricultural operation and to workers in that operation. Although the overall need for housing stock is high, the most urgent need before us now is to provide temporary and affordable housing to the agricultural community, a vulnerable population and for whom housing is critically inaccessible. Number 6, finally, on the subject of drinking water and on-site waste treatment systems, staff concluded that per state and county regulations, any temporary agricultural residence would require access to on-site drinking water and a waste treatment system approved by the Department of Environmental Health. This follows from our state-approved local agency management plan, or LAMP. The staff report for this item outlined a biofiltration unit as an example of systems that are less costly than permanent solutions. However, at this time, these biofiltration systems cannot be approved. The Department of Environmental Health is evaluating other options for on-site wastewater treatment systems and the county's ordinance to determine whether systems exist that can be approved to accompany temporary agricultural housing as an alternative to the existing, more permanent solutions. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff, of course, is available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I don't have any speaker cards on this item. So Supervisor Simitian, I will turn to you for any comments you have. Otherwise, I've got a couple.
I think I'd like to let you begin, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. This report mentions that the administration plans to bring a report to Hewlett by the end of this year regarding short-term rentals. I remind you that's about 6-7 weeks, so good luck with that. Beyond the Airbnb, there's now campsite rentals throughout sites like glampinghub.com, tenter.com, and others. And so I just wanted to say on the record, without expressing any opinions one way or another, I'd like the report back to Hewlett regarding short-term vacation rentals to include comments and thoughts about short-term campsite rentals. And I did want to say that I am not advocating for a whole bunch of tent rentals, places like this, the new fad that seems to be popping up in various areas. I am by no means advocating for the county supporting tents to pop up and be rented out on a weekly or a weekend basis throughout San Martin and South County. What I do want to do is address what we're doing going forward regarding short-term rentals. This whole, I'll say new phenomenon, it's probably not too new, but vacation-wise. And What I am interested in doing is kind of bifurcating this issue so that we handle and continue moving this particular issue forward, Supervisor, which is the one regarding migrant farm worker temporary housing under the 5 different bullets that you just listed, which I'm supportive of. And the other issue be handled separately another time. I want to get affordable, properly located, healthy housing available for our migrant farm workers on the ag land that is sanitary and safe and is a win-win for the farmers, the community, and the workers. Supervisor.
Appreciate the progress on the deposit. Understand the setback issue. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you think the increasing in the pilot program cap from 25 to 50 is adequate, but, you know, to start, I guess. Appreciate the expanding the length of the temporary stay from 3 years to 5. On the inclusion of non-agricultural workers in pilot program, I guess my question is, how do you define a non-agricultural worker? And I consider somebody who is a night watchman or night watch person on an ag property an agricultural worker. Do you? Because that means they could work 9 to 5 as a software engineer and then show up at their ag location and be a presence over the course of the night. I understand your arguments about, you know, we're trying to serve a particular population, ag folks. I understand, but I mean, we're clearly not trying to solve the larger ag worker housing need with a pilot program with one-offs on a site. So my question again is a night watch person qualify? Because if the go ahead, I'm sorry.
Before you, I'm sorry, I thought you were done with your, I wanted to
Go ahead,
make
please.
a statement before they responded
to
your question.
Good, great.
Okay. I concur with the supervisor because I envision any such relationship with the person being there and being charged with responding to sounds, being aware, being alert, whatever. I can see the property owner, for instance, saying, I'll give you a break in your rent. It's kind of like an on-site property manager at an apartment complex. You've got a person there, and part of their rental rate or rental break is responsible for overseeing. I have a number of constituents that have properties. They either have people on the property that kind of oversee, keep an eye on things, but they don't work the cattle, they don't work the horses, they don't run a tractor. And that is part of their job. So I am interested in your answer if you're able to provide one to us today.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
I think it's what's tricky. Currently, our code defines an agricultural employee as someone who's I believe the word is predominantly involved in an agricultural operation. Clearly, that's a difficult definition to pin down. I think what we're concerned about is abuse of this program for someone who's nominally a watch person or collecting chicken eggs, but who is in taking that spot of this limited program, perhaps not the most vulnerable community.
Got it.
The other, the other piece I'll just add is that the permanent component, the temporary component is to contrast with permanent options. So if there's a permanent need for a night watchman, we currently would allow for someone to put a mobile home, for example, on a property. This specific tool is intended as a pilot for temporary residences, and as such, we think is most appropriate for folks who are trying to establish a farm or trying to test their abilities, someone exploring that option rather than understanding a permanent need, in which we think probably a permanent solution would be more appropriate.
Yeah, I'm more, I'm not inclined I'm not inclined to be as constrained as staff would like us to be. So I agree with I appreciate staff's best professional judgment, appreciated it at the last meeting, appreciate it again today, all good. I just have a different policy judgment, which is let's get the hell out of our own way. That's my policy judgment on this item. And I think Supervisor Wasserman articulated much better than I did, thank you, the kind of circumstances that I'm trying to accommodate. I am not worried that we will have a flood of folks, and if we get a handful of folks, or even 2 handfuls of folks, I'll say, you know what, if that's what it took to make this thing go a little bit, I'm okay with that. So as a policy matter, I'm prepared to accept the imperfection of having somebody who we think would be perhaps less worthy, if that's the right word, for being in these slots, if that's going to make the project go and provide a little more flexibility, which I would like to provide. So I'm going to ask that if we move this forward, which I think we are, that on that one, we are specific about the fact that, and I don't care how staff and county council want to solve the problem, either by explicitly defining agricultural workers as whatever it's currently defined as with an and or someone who's there on premises to provide essentially security, or simply say, no, our definition stands, but this program also applies to somebody else who is there for security purposes, but I would like the program to be able to serve such people. I think that's, well, Supervisor Wasserman said it already, and he said it better than I did.
Thank you. I'll concur with that, and perhaps what the solution might be is simply allowing one unit to be used for an ag-related person. Because when that person's there on the weekends, let's say he's working a typical Monday through Friday somewhere else, when he's there on the weekends, he's kind of the person watching, responsible. Stuff goes on. I mean, we have rural deputies in South County because people show up daytime, nighttime, especially nighttime, and they steal farm equipment. So if you've got a big old spread and you've got nobody there whose job is to kind of keep an eye on things, to make sure the gate's locked up at night, to do whatever, or has motion lights going on that they can see from their home, when those lights come on, they know something's going on. That's something we need. And if we're increasing the occupancy from 1 to 50, and if 1 or 2 of those can be allowed for an ag-related position, that'd be something I'd be in favor of, Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then on the issue of water and wastewater, I appreciate the staff's clarifying that they think we can manage the potable drinking water issue without being unduly burdensome. But I wasn't really sure where we ended up on this issue of sanitary systems and septic systems. Are there or are there not affordable, I'm going to call affordable less than $10,000 or $5,000, the numbers that are in your staff report, are there such systems that we are capable of approving now?
At this time, the answer to that would be no. The traditional septic systems that we have in place are what we have approved in our local agency management plan, which is we work with the both regional water quality control boards. And to date, we just are not aware of any other systems that can handle sewage in the same safe manner. But we're going to keep looking, and we're also exploring and talking with other organizations. But based on who we've talked with so far, nobody has a more affordable solution. So we think that utilization of the infrastructure that already exists is probably the best solution, especially for a program that is going to run temporarily for 5 years. And we do have a lot of septic systems already installed in the area, and probably many of them can be capable and sized appropriately to handle some additional waste from a unit such as an RV.
Was that embedded in all that, was there an acknowledgement that asking somebody to go build a new septic system from scratch for just 5 years worth of amortization doesn't really make economic sense?
It is an expensive proposition. I would absolutely agree with you. One of the benefits of having an improvement on that land is that it would also be available for any future development of that property.
Okay, so I'm going to extract the part that I care about and the point that I want to make, which is, yeah, it would cost too much if you're asking somebody to put a septic system in to say, but we're only going to make this a temporary process for 5 years. So then my question is, there was the suggestion just now in your comments that some of these places already have existing septic, because there was a reference to asking people essentially to attach themselves to existing. So if somebody's got 20, 30, 40 acres out in an ag area, they have septic there now without any structures. They have septic there now for what?
No, this would be where there are existing structures.
So our ability to provide a pilot program is only going to work then in places where there was already an existing system.
That is correct.
Sounds like we're talking a lot and making a lot of work for not much progress, guys. That's my candid take on a Thursday afternoon. Let me ask this question then, which is, how soon are we going to know what some of the more affordable options are?
I think that that's something that would take us a couple of weeks to get to, and we could probably have an answer back within a few weeks. But again, the process for actually approving those systems would require us to also consult with the appropriate regional water quality control board, and that I couldn't even tell you how long that would take.
When we had our homeless shelter in Sunnyvale and we had an above-ground septic system that we only used for one season, how did that work?
That was permitted as a holding tank, and we do have an exemption in the ordinance for public buildings, so something for the public good. And it actually allows us to permit a holding tank system for a short period of time. And so that's what we utilize in that system. But holding tanks in the unincorporated areas, in the rural areas, are not a great solution because they typically get overfilled. They can spill onto the ground and they can create more of a nuisance. Which is, and especially in an area where we're growing food, we just don't want to have an additional possibility or introduction of sewage waste in that particular case.
I think all that makes sense, and what I would say is I'm still hearing the perfect being the enemy of the good here. The public good is not well served by having 50 folks not have housing who need housing. That's not a public good. Did I hear that most of that was a function of our own ordinances?
No, actually, we have a local ordinance, but it's based on statewide policy and state law. So when we went through the process, I think it was back in 2012, to update the ordinance, it was a pretty significant process, but a lot of stakeholders involved, including Regional Water Quality Control Board, Valley Water District, and all of the other stakeholders that we work with. And that was what was presented to be in compliance with the statewide outs ordinance or requirements.
There's a difference between doing something because we are required to do it by state law and doing something because it's based on state law or regulation. Are we required to limit ourselves the way we have limited ourselves, or do we have authority under state law to be, I'm going to say, more flexible?
I don't think in this particular situation, I don't think we have a lot of flexibility to not provide a permanent connection. And I would look to planning. I think there's also requirements in state law that if you have a permanent residence, which these would be, you have to have a connection to basic services such as water and sewer.
I don't know how we can call them permanent residents when we're saying you can only live there 5 years. Guys, look, I get that your first priority is always going to be public safety, public health and well-being, but I also think part of public health, safety, and well-being is putting a roof over people's heads.
Sure.
And I've dealt with farm labor housing going back to the 1980s on the coast side in San Mateo County, and I've seen the conditions that these people are living in, and there's nothing consistent with the public health, safety, and welfare in terms of the kinds of conditions people are otherwise subject to. So we got to be solution-oriented here, not impediment-oriented. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know where you want to go from here, but I'm not yet satisfied that we're at the right place.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from our director of the department.
Well, thank you. One of the reasons we looked at some of the options, the biofiltration system, was we were desperately seeking for an affordable option. When we presented that option in conversation with health department, it's not an option right now that, although it's only a $10,000, commitment, it's not an option right now that our code would allow us to pursue. But having those conversations with environmental health, we are looking at alternatives. The alternative is not to just allow an RV to come to the site unless we were to permit it somehow, where they'd have to go and pump somehow. And I don't even know if the state would allow us to do that. We're talking about up to a 5-year period. Maybe in those cases we limit it to 6 months, a year, if we're not going to have them connect into a system. Maybe it's not that we go for the 5-year period, and maybe it's a growing season. So there are some options we can look at to be solution-oriented to get housing, but maybe we limit the term of the entitlement.
Do you have a comment?
I'm looking to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I've got a question. What is the vision that you all have at this time? Person owns the property. He finds out about this. He wants to allow, he needs to have, let's say, 40, and I want to use the right term because I often don't use the right term on what the actual housing unit is called. Mobile home, RV, what do we call it? We're allowing up to 50 RVs. Is that the right word?
Well, if I may, we were calling them, the pilot program was proposed for up to 50 within the county, not on one piece of property, for just the pilot of temporary housing, either a recreational vehicle, an RV, that would tie into the system, or they could bring some other type of unit, perhaps a tiny home or some other type of very quick unit to get housing on the property for the ag worker.
Okay, I guess I have another issue then. And that goes back to the question you asked me in your opening comments, Supervisor Smidian, when you asked how I felt about 25 to 50. And if we're talking 50 county-wide, I don't think that's really going to solve the problem. I don't think it's really going to address the problem. I'm not sure that we're in any position to solve the problem, but as far as to facilitate a solution, address the problem, I confess to thinking about a person with a piece of land that was being farmed, and he was going to allow 25 to 50 RVs on that property for his seasonal workers. I could see that happening. I could see him charging, or her charging, $1,000 a month to allow the people to live there, which would be cheaper than housing they could get anywhere else, and eliminate any commute as far as that goes. I think that would be a win-win for both the farm worker and the property owner. When I had in mind the 25 to 50, and that's clearly my mistake, on a single piece of property, and the landlord charging $1,000 each, $500 each, whatever the number is that his employees could afford, that would certainly produce the revenue for him or her, the property owner, to build the waste system. So I was looking at it as, this person owns a property, he wants to have 35 RVs on there, he's charging, I'll just say $1,000 a month for round numbers, and putting in a leach field, even though it's a short period of time, Supervisor. We don't know that at the end of that 5 years, it's not going again. So we're talking as if, oh God, I'm going to put in a leach field for X, and in 5 years I can't use it. Middle, Michael, you mentioned that a person could use that afterwards to a house or some other structure. Also, 5 years from now, they could perhaps, I won't be here, but the board will be here, they could start another 5-year cycle. It may become the new normal. It may become temporary permanent housing, if you will, at 5 years at a time. I don't know what the future holds out, but it is clearly not a solution if we're saying 50 total and it might be one or two here or there, and then they've got to put in a $5,000 or $10,000 waste system. Michael B., from your experience as far as implementation of a leach field on a flat area, you have to size them based on capacity, number of people, occupants, flows, et cetera. Roughly speaking, the cost to build a leach field for, say, 3 families of 4, is it $20,000? Is it $100,000?
Yeah, that's a really good question. You know, I can give you a ballpark number, but again,
Sure.
it's really a ballpark number.
Ballpark.
But it is probably in the $15,000 to $20,000 neighborhood. It is not an inexpensive endeavor, and
Okay.
so that I mean, in general, again, that's probably what you'd be looking at as a minimum investment.
Okay. And when you say it's not an inexpensive, if you're only allowing a couple, 3 homes, it's expensive. If you're entitled to 30 homes, not so expensive. But again, the 15,000 may not apply to the 30 homes. That may be a $100,000 project.
Yep.
So it's all relative.
That's right.
What I'm saying is, I believe Supervisor Simidian are trying to find a way to make it practical. You know, we don't make money on any of these things we approve. We're just trying to make it practical for the property owner, the businessman or woman, and the people working the farm, the ranch, to be able to make a living in agriculture. And that's what we're trying to do. And I loved this idea because we got people off of the road. We gave them hours back to their families that they weren't commuting. We didn't cause more traffic jams for other people who were commuting. And the housing would be, in my mind, 1,000 instead of 2,000. So perhaps we can't forward this on at this point, Supervisor, and perhaps we need to ask the department to come back with some more ideas relating to the concerns we've expressed.
I would be supportive of that direction, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments, Madam Director?
No other comments.
Okay. I think you did get positive feedback on the establishment of the setback requirements, the length of the temporary from 3 to 5. You also, Michael Meehan, you mentioned, I had 1 through 4 on my list, and you mentioned 5, the affordable ag housing, and 6, on-site drinking and waste. And these are things we recognize and understand for public safety, and I'm certainly in support of that. I think the issue that we're coming down to is because of the cost per person for an approved waste system. For me, the limitation of 25 to 50 makes it prohibitive for the farm owner to do that. If you have 10 different farm owners that want to put 5 in each, they're not going to put in a $50,000 leach field. Now, if they can put in 20 each, and we can do a couple of hundred, then it might make sense financially to do so. So I think we need to continue thinking about this issue, and I would ask that you bring it back our next HULIT meeting in a month. Does that work?
That's fine. I have a question for you, if I may, just a question of clarification. So this was a pilot program, and it was a bifurcation from original. We were coming forward with an ag employee housing ordinance. If we find that it's not cost effective to recommend like if we can't find an alternative for a temporary program or a temporary housing to address the temporary housing issue, when we come back, because we were talking about a pilot program within the county, and we had 50, we did run some of the data relative to how many parcels we had that would, within the unincorporated county, that could qualify for a program of this type. I just want to make sure we have clear direction. You all are looking for us to come with some alternatives for the septic system, for the waste, to treat the waste if we're going to move forward with a pilot program.
For myself, I'm looking for you coming back to a way to make this doable for both the owner and the resident. For instance, if the property owner were to charge $5,000 a month, okay, the leach field, not a problem. The farm worker, problem. If the property owner is, because you have, and Jack, I didn't hear you say how many properties qualified?
Over 1,000 could apply for the program.
Over 1,000 properties could apply for the program. The way it's written up now, I don't think anyone that wanted to have 3 to 5 employees stay on their property that had to provide water and waste, realizing what he could charge for the units, would find it cost effective to do so. That would be the problem. Now, in that 1,000 that Jack just mentioned, I'm sure there are property owners that would love 100 units. Okay? And at 100 units, then the cost for providing the services becomes more affordable. I understand it's a pilot program, Jack, but even a pilot program, people will only buy into the pilot program if it makes sense. And if you say it's a $50,000 sanitation and safe water supply system, and you can have 3 RVs, it's not going to happen. Supervisor.
Well, let me start with what he said and then go to the more suburban terrain of my district. You all know we got people lined up and down El Camino Real in Palo Alto. We got folks on neighborhood streets in their RVs in Mountain View. And you know what? It's been going on for years. So I absolutely get the sincerity of your concern about the public health, safety, and general welfare. But let's confront the hard reality of what's going on out there. There's a way, if somebody rolls up in their RV, to make sure that their system gets serviced or taken someplace where it can be serviced. I don't think any member of our board is going to say, oh yeah, we're totally comfortable with people dumping raw sewage on ag land. So I just want it in the record and clear that's not what is being suggested or tolerated. But we got to look at compared to what. And if I look at compared to what right now, I'm thinking we need to find a way to be a whole lot more flexible. So, if you want to say, somebody's got to have a bona fide contract for service, okay, then fine, let them have a bona fide contract for service. Or got to provide some kind of proof positive that there's an opportunity to take whatever we're using and take it somewhere else, fine. But I'm looking for solutions that are real, and I'm willing to take not that much risk, but that much risk compared to what we've got right now. And if it sounds like I've got some passion on this, it's because I do. It's easy for those of us who live comfortable lives to hold out perfection as our planning goal. For people who live less comfortable lives, doing something, imperfect though it may be, is better than not doing a darn thing. And we've had this tension around, homeless issues for people who come and say, for God's sakes, just give us a safe place to put our tents and camp. Okay, and our county has resisted that, and I get that, but again, the compared to what question needs to be asked and answered. And some of you know I have a planning background. I did my 2 years at get my master's in city planning. I took all my tests and got my AICP certification, and I know that the goal is always to get it right. But getting it 99.9% right is better than not getting it done at all, and I fear that that's where we not only are, but will be headed if we put too many impediments in what we keep calling a pilot project. So.
Thank you. Sylvia.
The administration hears your message loudly and clearly. I'll convene the team. As you know, in a different capacity, I'm helping the team implement tiny homes in the Civic Center, so we have the same challenges, and I'm thinking of a couple of solutions that we're deploying there that might be possible to deploy in this circumstance. So we will come back and identify more opportunities to figure this out.
Thank you very much. Supervisor, is that enough on that issue?
Oh, I think so.
Any other comments? Jack, Mike? Thank you all. Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item number 7. Item 7 is regarding the building electrification reach codes. And Jack, before your staff presents on that, I have three speaker cards I'd like to hear from, and then it may be appropriate when your staff speaks that they respond to something they've heard. Thank you. Deshelle Leeds, Susan Butler Graham. Is that Graham, the first letter of G? Yep. It is. That's an interesting G. Bless you. And Karen Nelson. Come on up and start talking. You'll have 2 minutes each.
Hello, my name is Dashel Leeds. I'm a conservation assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter, and I'm also a resident of unincorporated Santa Clara County in District 1.
There you go.
We're in a climate crisis. I walk outside and I live in a forest and I smell burning trees, and it's terrifying. We really need to do something. Our global plans don't appear to be getting us to stay under the 2-degree tipping point of no return. And I think at this point we need local city and county governments to take a strong leadership role if we have any hope as a species of combating this crisis. Gas pipes are constantly leaking methane into our atmosphere, anywhere between 2 to 8% leakage rate, depending on the studies, which means that taken as a whole, gas is just as bad, if not worse than coal in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. This isn't even mentioning the indoor air pollution that gas leaks into our homes. Carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, ultrafine particles, really bad stuff that causes asthma and other long-term health impacts. We know that gas lines that get built are essentially stranded assets as the price of maintaining these gas lines goes up with a declining user base. So it really doesn't make sense to be putting any more gas lines into the ground when we absolutely know that we are going to have to retrofit them going forward. So let's make sure that we build all electric. Cities are leading the way on this. Menlo Park and Mountain View have included electric requirements in their REACH code. Mountain View is notable for the first read of their REACH code that they've passed, for passing an all-electric REACH code, which mandates that all new compliances be all-electric. I think the political momentum is really building here, and it's clear that gas really is of the past. So I think it's time for the county to take a strong leadership role and to let's have an all-electric REACH code for both residential and commercial new construction.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Susan Butler Graham with Mothers Out Front South Bay. We are mothers and others working for a livable climate for all children, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm here today in support of the strongest possible REACH code. Our kids need us to electrify our buildings as much as possible and stop building with gas. After years of misleading branding of so-called natural gas, most of us were tricked into believing it was a cleaner alternative to other fossil fuels. But now we know better. Production of gas pollutes, as Dash was saying, and burning it in our homes pollutes our indoor air, causing health problems like asthma. And so I need to say that I am so proud to live in this county that has declared a climate emergency. I want to thank you for your work on becoming a sustainable place to live. And a strong REACH code for building electrification will be the next most crucial step toward that sustainable future. We have the technology to construct buildings that are 100% electric. It's proven to be cost effective for developers, and in most cases, energy bills would be lower for people, especially as gas prices are going to rise a lot. We at Mothers Out Front want our county to have the strongest incentives legally possible to encourage building electrification. All families, this is an equity issue too, because all families deserve clean indoor air, lower utility bills, and the opportunity for EV ownership. Our county could be the climate smart example for other counties, for the whole state, for other states to follow. So I want to close with, so our kids will be living and working in these buildings long after we are gone, and they deserve the best REACH code possible for building electrification. So let's reach for the future. Thank you.
Hi, hello. I'm Karen Nilsson, and I'm chair of the Climate Reality Santa Clara County. You all know about Climate Reality. We're a group of county residents working on climate change. We've reviewed the report to your committee, and I am so pleased that you are now moving forward quickly to develop REACH codes. Thank you for that. Now, however, we're asking you to do better, to do the best you can with the REACH code standards, because we need REACH codes that will substantially reduce greenhouse gases emissions and protect the health and safety of our residents. So we suggest that our new buildings be all electric. Some people will tell you stories that suggest all electric is challenging. You may hear, for instance, that electricity costs more. The good news is that it doesn't. In fact, with the current very efficient appliances, it costs less. You may hear that technology is not ready. And the wonderful news is that it is ready. We have scores of cases, if you'd like to see them, those studies that prove that the technology is ready. You will also likely hear that gas assures resiliency, and with the wildfires that we've had recently, I think that's come up a little bit. But in reality, gas-based appliances now use electric ignition. And so inherently gas is not more resilient. But what does offer resiliency is electric power using solar combined with battery power. REACH codes, I think you all agree, should be easily and effectively administered. That's why many jurisdictions in the county, and we're following all this, are choosing to adopt prescriptive standards. And by the way, Jackie, thank you for that great explanation of that. And so we hope that you also follow through with prescriptive standards like all electric.
Thank you very much. We need to be fair on time to everybody.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. That concludes the speakers I have for this item number 7. Supervisor Simidian, I'll turn to you first.
No comments today, Mr. Chairman.
No comments. I do have some comments. Jack, any comments that you wish to make on this?
No, I'll hear your comments first.
Okay, thank you very much. With the recent electrical power outages, I am hesitant to approve anything that would require new residential building to be fully electric. Whole neighborhoods went without power, and especially in the rural areas of my district, this is a huge public safety concern. They needed power in order to have water. I'm not sure being completely reliant on one source of energy or one provider is the right thing to do. This board has made climate change a priority by declaring a climate emergency, and I want to see us act on that. However, we must also be thinking about the safety of our residents. My preference is to give builders more flexibility in achieving a higher energy efficiency than the energy code through the use of mixed fuels, natural gas and electricity. I also appreciate staff providing a timeline for public outreach because I want to hear from everyone, especially the developers, citizens, and all users, about how we can best incentivize and not restrict so the cost to build won't become too prohibitive to reduce affordable housing opportunities. That's certainly one of my concerns. As we put on more and more restrictions, that restrictions tend to increase the cost of building than the other way around. And right now we're finding it very hard to provide affordable housing. I'll conclude by saying this is the way of the future, but we must balance our climate priorities with public safety and housing concerns. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. So I just want to say that we're in the very early stages of developing the REACH codes. You have examples of what we're looking at. We have a very ambitious timeline because we are trying to incorporate our public outreach with our adoption of our building codes so that we're coming before the board at one time. And so we're embarking on our public outreach in November, and you see it says tentative, but I do recognize that when we put dates on a page, we're held to those dates. I didn't want to bold the word tentative, but we're ambitious to be able to incorporate these codes into our building code. So you see the examples in the staff report that we are considering. We're going to go out in November and begin our public outreach.
Thank you. And Supervisor, this recommended action is simply to receive the report, which we've certainly done, and make comments, which I've done. I look forward to your comments.
Just quickly, I would say, I understand the staff, of course, has to be responsive to direction from the board, and that there are 5 members of the board. From my standpoint, on the tentative timeline, while I don't want to undercut any sense of urgency, I think on this issue, if there's a balance to be struck, getting it right is more important than getting it done in a month or 2 less or longer. To the comments that Supervisor Wasserman made and those from members of the public, I apologize. I'm going to revisit the experience I had with renewable energy portfolio standards at the state level, and the tension was very similar, because I felt sure that we could get to 20% renewable energy by 2010 if we laid down that marker. I felt sure we could get to 33% by 2020. There were people who said we could not, and ultimately, I came to the conclusion that we could, that we should, and we have. And part of the reason for my not offering more substantive comments today is that I appreciate getting the document, and now I want time to think about where that balance is. So I'm not going to stake out a position on it today. Just so everybody's clear and doesn't walk away thinking there's any ambiguity about this, should we be adopting the best set of reach codes we can? We should. I'm for that. So then the question is, what's the best set of reach codes that we can? And figuring out where that line is for me as one of 5 individuals who has to exercise a judgment, it's going to require me to spend a little more time on it. So thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. But again, my short version is, it takes an extra, I'd hate to give up. I'd hate to make a mistake by taking a month or 2 less. I'd also hate to give up more aggressive action because we were anxious that we hadn't resolved something yet. So I hope people don't misunderstand the time you take as being anything other than a desire to be as aggressive as we can without getting it wrong. Thanks. So if you're looking for a motion to simply receive, I will say move to receive.
It's received.
Okay.
That concludes our agenda. We'll be meeting here again on Thursday, November 21st at 10 a.m.
Thank you,
Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned.